Hi there. In this video, we are going to use what we've learned in the previous Fundamentals of Flexbox chapter. So first, let's look at this card. We see it has two regions, media and text. And then the text area has 4 items, but 2 are more closely tied together. And this is because they're also in a separate wrapper. We'll reproduce this thing exactly. I've prepared here a blank template. In my container, I'm going to add a div. This is going to be my card wrapper. Then inside, I'm going to add 2 divs. One div for media and one for text. Clicking in the media div, I'm going to add an image. Clicking in the text div, I'm going to add several things. So what do we have? We have heading, then we have paragraph, then we have text item, which is that badge, and finally we have a link, which looks like a button. So in order to more easily orient ourselves here, let's change some things. So here I'm going to make an article out of the card wrapper, and I'm going to also call it card. This naming changes nothing about the code, it's just for easier orientation. Here I'm going to say text. As I mentioned, heading and paragraph need to be in a separate div so that we can group them with different spacing between. This text item, I'm going to put it on the top. I'm going to put heading and paragraph inside. Let's pull in the image just so we can start working with seeing what we need. I'm going to take a smaller image. I want to begin by making this card a little smaller so that it looks more like it does in the design. Later in the blog, we're going to change this value. But for now, let's go to card. And then we're going to go to sizing. And on our max width, let's do something like 360 pixels. I think that's close enough. Okay. I also want to put it in a center. So I'm just going to go to my container. I'm going to make it vertical flexbox, and I'm going to use center to center all the things inside of it. I'm also going to do like 3 rem gap to make a bigger distance between the page title and the card. Before we start styling, I want to say something about selectors in Builderius and how it relates to consistent styling and how it may differ from others. In Builderius, you can create any kind of selector, which means it's not necessary to add classes to all of the items within the card. We can do it from the top selector. However, because this is a beginner tutorial, I'm going to use only classes, like you may have seen so far in other builders. In a future video, I'm going to show how to use more advanced selectors that make it unnecessary to add classes to all of the elements. But for now, let's stick to classes. Card. I will call my card. Let's call it card media. Now we have classes for all our elements, which will make it easy to select. So what is the first thing we can do to make it look a little bit more like this card to have kind of an immediate satisfaction? We can change the background color and add some rounded corners, right? I'll inspect here. I'll see that this is my color. And I can see that 24 pixels are used for the radius. I can go to my background and paste my background color. Then I'm going to go to my borders, and in my radius, 24 pixels, I prefer to use rem, so it's going to be 24 divided by 16, which is 1.5. So 1.5 rem. let's see the results. We can notice that we now have radius visible here, but not on the image. This is because we didn't apply the radius on the image. So we can try by just going to our card and on the sizing, apply hidden overflow. This should resolve the issue. So let's go to our card and copy all the actual content we see there. I see we have then we have a label here for the label. So I want to first work on my text area because I see more difference here. On my text wrapper, I want to orient everything vertically. So I'm going to use what we have learned so far. So I'm going to use flex, column. If we look at the design, we see quite a lot of padding here. So let's see how that padding is done. So what we can't do, of course, is add the padding to the card. If we do this, then we will have padding also around the image. So we have to add it to the text area. Going back to text area, we can see it's 48 pixels. So 48 divided by 16 will be 3. So my card text is selected, and in spacing, we can add this value. So we'll just go and say 3 rem here, and we see it updated. This is kind of almost the same height, and the title here is way bigger in our implementation, so we need to change this. So let's see what the size here is, 24. So our heading card typography, I will use a CSS variable here. So typing dash 2 times and typing font will bring me to font options, and I can now see various sizes. So if I go to font size 0, let's see what we get. We get a body size, right? We can now just go 1, maybe 2. This looks good to me. 700. Looks much better, but I think the text is a bit too big. So I'll go back here and use 1. Okay. Next, we have a label and a link. My label is up there, and I'm keeping it down there. And I want to keep it down there in the HTML, but I want to use CSS to put it up. This is a common practice when you want to support accessibility in the way that the title gets read first and then the other less important items. Since we have Flexbox applied to the text wrapper, we can just go to card badge to flex child, and we can just go to order and say -1. This is going to move it to be the first item in this area. Let's also do the styling. So here we see some background. So this is something I need to take with me. And so let's go to backgrounds. Okay. We now have a problem. It is producing the full width element, and this is because of what the Flexbox is doing. So going back to my card text wrapper, I will say start for all my items. This will remove this behavior. Now we need to add some padding to the badge. So going back to badge, then spacing. In my padding, I'm going to unlock because I don't want to have them all the same. So here I'm going to do something like 0.5 m. So it is relative to the size of the type. 0.5 m here as well. 0.25 m. Okay, this looks a bit too much, so maybe 2 will be enough. Okay, that looks decent. Also, here we see all capital letters. So we will go to typography and do that. But now it becomes too big. So we also want to reduce the size So here 0.75 rem is going to do what I need it to do. I want it the same on all sides, so it's going to be 0.1025 m maybe. Let's check what we get. It's decent. And now let's go to the button. Let's first change the colors. So the color here should be white. And the background should be black. Text decoration should be none. Now we need some more spacing. So going back to spacing, and let's just write 1.5 m on all sides, and then unlock. Change this one to less. And here I need more, and I know I need more because when you have bigger rounded corners, you need more space. So okay, let's just preview our results. Looks good. On the radius, I'm going to use a variable. So let's go to the biggest one. We want it to always be round. Okay, so I need to increase the space between the label and the button in relation to this text, but I need to reduce the size here. It's not even set to be Flexbox, which I will change now. I can do something like 0. I know that this spacing the result of headings and paragraphs having default spacing assigned to them. So we need to override them on the local level. So let's select heading first, go to spacing, and let's do 0 and 0. So since this produced no results, I'm going to remove them because let's not add code that doesn't help us. Now go to paragraph, and I will assume it's also margin. Okay. So let's go to layout, and on the gap, I'm going to use my spacing variables built into Builderius. So I can open them up clicking on this plus icon and just typing spacing, and I'm going to get a list of space. And as I hover over, it's going to show the results. So I believe this large version looks good. I can now do the same thing on the inner wrapper, clicking here, going to gap, clicking on this spacing, I can see what might be good. So maybe even the smallest one. Let's see what happens here. Okay. If I now click again on this item, nothing will be selected, and I can preview my results. Image is not filling its container entirely. The way to achieve this is to select the image itself, and as long as the class is selected, we should be able to go to sizing, and on the height, type 100% or. However, we want to make sure that the image doesn't change its ratio. So to make sure, we go to Object Fit and choose Color. Now our card should be good to go. Here we see that the image is bigger than the text, while in our case it's the opposite. Let's see a little bit how this Figma file was made to make sure we are doing it right. So looking here, we can see that there is a fixed value set for the image, and a hug, which means growing with the content in Figma, is set for the text. So this looks good to me. So I will do this. 355. Let's just check if that's going to be exactly the size we want. So since our image just needs to fill its wrapper, we are not going to apply the height to the image, but to the media wrapper. Going down to sizing and height, let's just try 355 pixels. And I think we're getting pretty close to this. Okay, maybe it's a bit too high in our context. So maybe let's do something like 350 pixels. Yeah, that looks better. Next, let's use this card in a grid. So first let's duplicate it. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we want to wrap all of them in one container. So I'm going to go to container here. Let's pull the new div just under the heading. And let's now put all the items. Okay. I'm going to call it grid 3. And let's start our styling. So we will need our layout primarily. We want to use row, so to put these cards next to each other. And we want to wrap them. Next, we want to do something like 1.5 rem for the grid. The problem we have now is we have a fixed size applied to the width value of the card class. We did this so that we can more easily style the card, but now that it is in the grid, it's no longer working for us. So let's see why. If we resize our screen, the cards do not adapt, and we want them to fill our container width, maintaining the 3-column layout. Our first step is to remove this restriction. Okay, when we remove the restriction for the width of the card, we have a new problem. Flexbox items, if they don't have a fixed or declared value for the width of the container, they get that value from the content. And in this case, this is the size of the image that determines the width. This is too large to make even 2 columns, let alone 3. So how can we do this successfully? We usually do that by putting 1 on grow, 1 on shrink, allowing both, and 0 on basis. And this does partly what we're trying to do. It makes them horizontally aligned. But what it does, it tries to fit all of them into one row. Even if our grid item has a wrap set, as long as items can fit next to each other, and obviously they can even if they don't look well, they will. We need to adapt those restrictions a bit more. So going back to my card, pay attention, I'm always doing this on a class. We need to change our basis value to something that works better for us. So let's try something a bit more naive. So splitting 100% to 3 gives us 33.33333. But this is obviously not good enough because it's, I guess, too big. And why is it too big? It's too big because we also have this gap value here, right? So let's see what we can do. So let's do something like, maybe let's try to reduce it. Let's do 30. Okay, so we're now getting something quite close to what we want, but still it's not really behaving like we want it to behave because the last item is stretching all the way. If we always had same number of items in a row, like here, this would work perfectly well. But that's not always the case. And in this case, like a blog listing, it's almost never the case. So we need to find a better solution. So what is the problem here? We have set our grow to be allowed. So the last item grows to fill in all the space. So maybe we think, okay, so let's not allow grow. Right? So this seems to work. However, when we look a bit better, we will see that items are not really filling in all the space. We're kind of back where we were with a fixed value. So what is the actual solution? We don't want to allow shrink either. We want really those fixed items to just fill in the space exactly. This means we need to really provide an exact value. And we can't really provide that exact value because percent is not how we declare those gaps. So we need to use the calc function, which is a function to make calculation between different units. So we can do something like calc, open the braces, and inside the brace, provide what to calculate. So space plus 1 rem oh, I mistyped, will get us pretty close, but not quite there. So let's go back to our initial percentage value and do that 33.333. And now we realize, oh, we actually have to reduce it by 1 rem because they're too big. So this looks good. Let's now make it responsive. Let's check. On desktop, it looks good. On tablet, I think here we can benefit from reducing this to 2-column layout. So I will do calc and then pass 50% here, but reduce it by 0.75 rem. And let's check if it fits well to our container. It seems it does. And let's move to mobile, select our card, and change this to 100%. And unselect to see how it looks. We can select our grid wrapper just to check whether the items are filling all the space. And it seems it's working exactly as we want. So that is all regarding our introduction into Flexbox. See you in the next video.